bright and early, it's almost 10 o'clock, on Monday morning, the 22nd. And I want to give you a tiny little reading update before I move on with the day. So last night, when I got into bed, I started reading Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. There was an introductory essay at the beginning of this that sort of gave a survey of Whitman's life and basic meanings behind this work. And then I read the first page and a half, and it's a lot to sort through. So I'm just gonna take my time with this and read a little bit every day. But so far, I don't know really what I think of it, but I mean, it's a beautiful compilation of words all put together. But anyway, I'm not sure what I'm going to read this week. This morning on Scribd on audiobook, I started Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. I think that's the correct way to say it. And so far, it's incredible. The narration is incredible, and I'm not too far in yet, but it seems like it's going to be a really informative, educational, awesome read, awesome listen. So I'm excited for both of those things. I'm not sure what physical book I'm going to pick up this week. The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt is looking really nice right about now. But I also may pick up The Picture of Dorian Gray because I've been wanting to read that recently. So I will see you again when I have another update. Tuesday night. It is about 9:40, but I wanted to give you a quick update before I go into my bedtime reading for tonight, since it is creeping up on my bedtime more quickly than I would like. I have been listening on audiobook on Scribd to Stamped from the Beginning, A Definitive History of Racist Ideas in America by Ibram X. Kendi, and I don't know if I have words to express how amazing this work is. The author is not joking when he says that it is a definitive history of racist ideas. It tracks racist ideas and the fallout from the perpetuation of those racist ideas throughout history. I'm currently at 14 hours left, and it is nearly a 19-hour audiobook, I believe. It is split into 5 sections that each surround a specific racist or anti-racist thinker who proliferates their ideas and who's very influential in their lifetime and since then. I am now in the Thomas Jefferson volume. I don't know if I have the words to express to you how masterful Kendi is in his work. He is just imparting so much. The sheer volume of information that he is imparting in this work is massive, and he weaves it together in such a masterful and artful and easy to understand but still dense and challenging way. And I am completely amazed. I am not a usual reader of nonfiction, but lately I've been wanting to get more into nonfiction, even though I'm not usually a nonfiction reader, as I am growing up and realizing that reading really is a form of education, and that nonfiction books really are probably worth my time. That's a childish thought that I have held, is that nonfiction books aren't worth my time. But anyway, I've been wanting to get into nonfiction books, and I read White Rage, and now I'm reading Stand from the Beginning, and it's such an incredible experience. I want to read all of the nonfiction about every subject. So if you're watching this video and you have a specific or a couple of specific nonfiction favorites, please leave them down below. I would just love to know what topics interest you guys, but B, I would love those recommendations to know where to get started. Right now I'm starting out with anti-racist texts, but I would love to move on to more different topics in the future, so please leave those in a comment. My only other reading update that I have is that I have been reading and annotating Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. I am still only a couple more pages in, but I sat down a little bit ago at the pool and read some more. So I want to read you a specific passage that I thought was just so beautiful. Whitman is discussing the American poet and his role and his power in culture. He's talking about all of the things that poets do and can do for people, and he says, he spreads out his dishes. He offers the sweet, firm, fibered meat that grows men and women. His brain is the ultimate brain. He is no arguer. He is judgment. He judges not as the judge judges, but as the sun falling around a helpless thing. As he sees the farthest, he has the most faith. His thoughts are the hymns of the praise of things. In the talk on the soul and eternity and God off of his equal plane, he is silent. He sees eternity less like a play with a prologue and denouement. He sees eternity in men and women. He does not see men and women as dreams or dots. Faith is the antiseptic of the soul. It pervades the common people and preserves them. They never give up believing and expecting and trusting. There have been a couple of things in here where Walt Whitman really has shown his beliefs about what is going on in his culture, but the first poem that I am reading is about what he thinks about America. And so far it has been about the dignity of the common man and the beauty of nature, and now he's talking about the role of the American poet. I remember in 11th grade English, that was our American literature year, and one of the topics that I was really fascinated by was transcendentalism, and Walt Whitman is a late romanticist and transcendentalist, so that's a double winner for me, and I'm really enjoying this so far. I will keep you updated with beautiful passages as I find them. And the last thing is that tonight I'm going to sit down with a piece of cake and tea, which for some reason for me, cake and coffee or cake and tea are just the perfect reading pairing. Let me know what your favorite reading snack / drink is in the comments if you have one, or let me know if you're not a snacker or drinker while you're reading at all. So I'm going to go get a piece of cake that some lovely friends brought to my family and have some tea tonight because it is almost bedtime. Not time for coffee. And I'm going to finally pick up The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I actually owned a copy of this a while ago, a Barnes & Noble classic edition, and I gave it away. I found this at the secondhand bookstore. This is a limited edition from the Harper Perennial Olive editions, and it's gorgeous. I am so excited to read this book. It sounds harrowing and romantic with a capital R, and honestly, romantic with a capital R is all that I want right now. So I've got two. I will be annotating The Picture of Dorian Gray while I'm reading it, and once I sort of come to a place where I have an annotation style set down in stone, I will make a video about it. I just don't have one specifically laid out that I follow every time. It sort of changes from book to book as I'm developing it. So, but for now, I'm going to go cozy up with this, and I will talk to you the next time I have an update.
this is a piano piece by Brahms, who's considered one of the three Bs. So Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms, they're like considered to be, I don't know, the Holy Trinity or whatever.
Hey you guys, I know the TV is on in the background and you can totally hear it, and I'm sorry about that, but I am at my internship right now. Everybody just left to go to lunch because sit-down restaurants are open in our area, but I didn't really feel good about that, so I'm staying here by myself and I don't have any work to do while they're gone, so I'm gonna sit and read and watch Cold Case Files, which is on the TV. That's what I'm gonna be doing. This is just kind of funny. This is the mess that has ensued from making my video for this week.
Social commentary, I get what you're saying, it was kind of performative, and I think, I don't know, like, I saw like what she was trying to do.
Alright, so it is now Friday, about 5 p.m. I feel like it's been a really long time since I sat down and talked to you on this vlog, but I haven't been reading a ton, so there's not been a lot to talk about, but I am definitely planning on finishing The Picture of Dorian Gray by Sunday so that we can have a review section in this vlog. I filmed my mid-year book freakout tag this morning and I had a lot of fun, and then I just sat down to edit it for like 3 hours. I also attended the Dark Academics Book Club live show for Ninth House and really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and I sat and edited parts of my video while I watched the live show. And so yeah, that was so cool. Next month, their book is If We Were Villains, so I'm definitely gonna be there talking all about one of my new favorite books. But Dorian Gray. The Picture of Dorian Gray. I'll just say, first of all, this book is not at all what I expected, at least not yet. So far, I'm just about halfway. It's been centered mostly on Lord Henry, which I thought it would be mainly about Dorian, but in the first half, it's been mainly about Lord Henry, who won't shut up about his opinions. Like, I love him as a character. I think he's great. I'm just saying, he won't stop talking. He is starting to corrupt Dorian, and the transformation that is legendary in this book has just started to take place. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this book so far. I just want to say that the writing is unlike anything I've ever read, and it's completely wonderful, and I am enjoying it so much. I am annotating a lot and only tabbing the things that stick out to me the most, because I have at least an annotation or two on every page. But right now my bookmark is my tabs. But I'm gonna look for a quote in particular that I want to read. There's a lot of talk in here about human nature and what art is and what art means, and what the truth of different emotions are. And obviously Lord Henry has a lot of opinions about that, but as you read his opinions, it really sort of kind of helps you think about what your thoughts are on those emotions. So that's kind of an interesting experience that I'm having while reading this book, but I'm looking for a tab that I can read to you. I'll read two. This is a quote from Basil Hallward. "Something seemed to tell me that I was on the verge of a terrible crisis in my life. I had a strange feeling that fate had in store for me exquisite joys and exquisite sorrows." This is from Lord Henry's narration a bit later in the book. "Ordinary people waited till life disclosed to them its secrets, but to the few, to the elect, the mysteries of life were revealed before the veil was drawn away." So anyway, I am really enjoying this book so far, and particularly I'm enjoying the writing, but the characters are all so vibrant and unique from each other and unique to anything I've really seen before. And they're also, each of them are unapologetic, which I love. Especially the three main male characters, Lord Henry, Dorian Gray, and Basil, and then Sybil Vane as well. I just have loved each of them so far in this first half, so I'm really excited to see what happens in this book, even though I sort of know what happens because the premise of this book sort of tells itself. I'm sure there are some surprises locked up inside of this book. I also am really enjoying being on YouTube, and I just want to thank you guys again for the lovely comments that you're leaving me. How many of you are saying like welcome to BookTube, and leaving me like genuine awesome comments telling me what you think. I love it. So yeah, thank you so much. I think I'm gonna go make some tea and move about the house, get my blood flowing a little bit, because I've been sitting for 3 hours, and then read some more of this book. Hi there, it is Saturday afternoon. I just wanted to sit down and talk about some of my reading progress before I continue this afternoon. So first things first, I am still listening to Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. I believe I now have 8 hours left of the audiobook. It's just incredible. I think at some point what I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to finish the audiobook so that I get a full first read experience, because also the audiobook narrator is incredible. But I'm going to buy a hard copy of Stamped from the Beginning and sit down and reread it at some point and make notes as I do, heavily annotate it, and try to map out on paper for my own understanding everything that he has packed into this book, because it's such a wealth of information. So I completely recommend it already. It's just an invaluable experience to see events centered around the ideas that caused them and the ideas that flowed from them. So I really recommend the book, and I will keep you updated as I have more thoughts on it. My next update is about The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I have about 64 or 65 pages left. I read a good chunk last night, and honestly, the writing is unmatched. It's unlike anything I really have read before. You can tell that Wilde is a poet. So something that I have really loved about the writing is that this book is seemingly split into 3 sections, and the 3 sections are mainly split by how sort of zoomed in they are on the events of the book. So in the first section, we are zoomed in. We are observing in detail the inciting incident. This includes a lot of dialogue, a lot of specific descriptions of things like furry bees and textures and fabrics and the exact color of someone's hair. So then after all of those specific descriptions where we get a grasp on the characters, we've got the inciting incident and the turning point in Dorian Gray's life. We zoom out and we've got nearly 20 years of description that happens in about a chapter. But I was astounded by the way that Oscar Wilde describes those nearly 20 years in Dorian Gray's life. He uses everything except Dorian Gray himself to explain what Dorian Gray is becoming and what his life is like during these 18 years. He uses mainly external sources that are present in Dorian Gray's life to describe what he's like and what he's going through in these times. He will zoom in specifically to talk about the inner workings of his heart or his mind at certain points for a moment, like he would in the more zoomed in sections, but he only does that for a moment, and then he goes back to describing what Dorian was reading or eating or watching on stage. He gives you a complete sense of how Dorian is developing as a person without really even describing how Dorian is developing as a person. And then in the third section, which I have passed into now, again, it zooms back in and is focused specifically on dialogue and feelings and describing those in detail. So I just wanted to give you my thoughts on The Picture of Dorian Gray before I sat down to finish it, which hopefully I'm going to do right now. So, okay, oh, wow. Tonight I have made some peppermint tea, and before bed I'm going to drink that and probably journal a little bit, and then maybe read a few pages of The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. For this book, I am expecting Donna Tartt's awesome writing with more art and less incest than the other book of hers that I have read. So hopefully this will fulfill all of those requirements, all of those expectations. Anyway, that is all for tonight. I will see you tomorrow for the final day on this vlog. It is now Sunday night, so it's time to round up this vlog. Let's get into talking about The Picture of Dorian Gray. So in the Copal rating system, it totaled out to a 4 based on the ratings I gave each of the individual pieces, but I'm going to give it a 4.5 just because I found it to be such a deeply meaningful read, and one that I'm going to mull over and reread over a long period of time. Maybe the rest of my life. Let me tell you what my individual ratings were. For characters, let's see. The characters were what I wrote the most about in my journal. Characters were 8, mainly because I felt like Sybil Vane, really the only female character. There were a couple of others. Duchess Monmouth was actually an incredible character. She was Lord Henry's match, basically, in wit and comebacks. But the most important female character in the novel, Sybil Vane, was a very caricatured character. She was a pretty classical, hysterical woman. And even though everyone to a degree in the novel was a caricature at some level, I felt that Oscar Wilde very purposefully gave those different caricatures meaning and depth and complexity over the course of the novel, and that's something that he didn't do for Sybil Vane. So that's why I took those 2 points off. I probably could take more, but I would have to reread and be reading to see the value of female characters there. I think obviously the perception that the reader gets of Sybil Vane is the perception that Dorian Gray has of her, but there are scenes in which she's speaking to her mother and her brother, but I didn't find those personal interactions between Sybil and her family members to necessarily contradict the misogynistic view that Dorian had of Sybil. On first impressions, I wasn't necessarily very impressed with Sybil Vane's character writing. She played a very crucial role in Dorian Gray's development. She was definitely a woman written by a man of Oscar Wilde's time. We'll just say that. The atmosphere was an 8.5. One thing that I really liked about this book was that the atmosphere changed with the plot. Sometimes in a novel you have an atmosphere that is maintained throughout the whole, but I think the drastic changes of Dorian Gray needed to beget an atmosphere shift, and that was definitely throughout the book. The writing was a 10, but I have obviously talked a lot about that, and my thoughts have not changed. Plot was 9. It was just interesting how things unfolded, and I enjoyed going along for the ride. There was nothing really to guess or solve in this, and I was so surprised from the beginning by what the actual content of the book was as opposed to what I expected it to be, that I was just not even in a mind space to guess what was going to happen. And then intrigue was 9. I was very intrigued. Logic was 9. The book itself was illogical, but I thought that in a classic sort of way, which you see in a lot of old literature, it basically said, you know, I can't explain this, but it happened. And that humility helps me to suspend disbelief in something as illogical as a painting taking on the age and the sins of a human person and that human person remaining unchanged. The book was illogical, but logic wasn't really necessary because of how the illogical parts of the book were dealt with, if that makes any sense. And then enjoyment was 9. I really, really enjoyed the book. I loved reading it. I loved immersing myself in the world. I read a lot of books from this time period, fantasy and otherwise, mainly talking about the Infernal Devices. It wasn't hard for me to get immersed into the world, and I found that Oscar Wilde's way of revealing the inner lives of his characters was really immersive as well. But anyway, I really, really loved the picture of Dorian Gray. I am going to actually pick one more quote and leave you with a final passage that I really like. This is something about the writing. I love the use of capitalization in this book, where things like art, love, joy, song, words like that are capitalized, and it gives life to those words as a personified thing and gives more meaning to the passage in which they're used. So I really enjoyed that. Okay, so I have read this passage a couple times just to make sure that I don't think there are any spoilers in it. But this is near the end of the book. Let me just read this to you to show you how Oscar Wilde reveals the inward parts of the soul. Okay. From cell to cell of his brain crept the one thought, and the wild desire to live, most terrible of all man's appetites, quickened into force each trembling nerve and fiber. Ugliness that had once been hateful to him because it made things real became dear to him now for that very reason. Ugliness was the one reality. The coarse brawl, the loathsome den, the crude violence of disordered life, the very vileness of thief and outcast were more vivid in their intense actuality of impression than all the gracious shapes of art, the dreamy shadows of song. They were what he needed for forgetfulness. In 3 days, he would be free. If I read anything else from the end of the book, it would totally be a spoiler. But I completely recommend this novel 100%. If you haven't read it, go read it. If you've read Jane Austen and the bearing of the internal life is something that you enjoy about Jane Austen, that is in this book, and I think if you don't mind the darkness, that you'll enjoy it. If you enjoy a descent into madness, I think you will enjoy this book. If you enjoy lots and lots of feelings and just being along for the ride of whatever's gonna happen, I think you will enjoy this book. I have read a couple pages of The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, so this is my next read. I'm going to be reading this more tonight, but I'm going to end the vlog here, obviously, because it's Sunday night and these vlogs are weekly. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you've gotten to this point in the video, leave a comment with an emoji that you think describes Dorian Gray, whether you've read it or not. The picture of Dorian Gray, whether you've read it or not. Let me know what either emoji you think describes it having read it, or what emoji you would anticipate it would be like. So that'll be really fun to see those. Again, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you a few moments of calm and solace. Until next time, I will see you again soon. I hope that you are having a lovely day, and I hope that if it's not very good, that it will get better soon. And I hope you love what you're reading. Bye.